God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. He answers prayer. He answers prayer. He answers prayer. He's so good to me. I love him so. I love him so. I love him so. He's so good to me.
Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, First and Second Samuel, First Kings, Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Psalms, Brothers, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and the last book, Malachi.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Sure have been missing you Southwest kids and missing those smiling faces of yours. I'm very glad to get to be with you this morning and just to have a little Bible story time with you. I hear that you have been having a memory verse out of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1. I bet you can all say it by now. How about we try to say it all together? Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Well, you've had some lessons these last few weeks where you have learned about people who have shown great faith. And those lessons, I believe, have all been in the New Testament. Today, we're going to have a story from the Old Testament. In fact, it comes from the book of Daniel. And I hope you have sung the song, or maybe you will sing the song here in a little bit about our Old Testament books. And we find that Daniel is a little more than halfway through the Old Testament. In the chapter, or in the book of Daniel, there are 12 chapters, and our story comes mostly from the 3rd chapter of Daniel. If you want to read the story later with your family, that would be great. Well, Daniel had 3 friends, and our story is mostly about these 3 friends. I don't know if you have heard of them or not. When the chapter starts, we are told that Daniel's 3 friends are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Those names may not be familiar to you, but later in the story, one of King Nebuchadnezzar's chief officials changes their names to Babylonian names. And they are then known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I bet you've heard of those names and those men. We're going to listen to the story of these three men and just some of the challenges that they faced, but also we will see what great faith they had when meeting those challenges. This is the story about three young Jewish men who worshiped God and were made leaders in the country of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar was the ruler of all of Babylon, and he decided to build a huge image made of gold that stood 90 feet high. Now, to understand how tall that is, imagine 15 men all standing one on top of the other to make a tower. King Nebuchadnezzar made an announcement or a law for all of the people. He said, whenever you hear the music playing, you must all bow down and worship the idol. If anyone does not bow down, then they will be put to death by being thrown into a furnace of fire. Later, when all the music began playing, all of the people bowed down, except for three people, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They did not bow down to an idol like everyone else. They knew that God only wanted them to worship Him, and God's law said they were to never bow down to idols. They knew they would get in trouble with the king and that everyone might laugh, but they still chose to obey God. Some men in the king's court noticed that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not bow down to the idol. They went and told the king that someone had dared to obey the king's law. King Nebuchadnezzar was very angry. How dare anyone in his kingdom not worship his gods? He called the three young men before him. Why will you not bow down before the idol as I commanded? If you do not bow down to my idol immediately, then I will have you thrown into a blazing furnace of fire. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked at each other and replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we did not make a mistake, nor will we apologize for not bowing down. If we are thrown into the furnace, the God we worship will save us and He will rescue us. But even if He doesn't, we want you to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. That made Nebuchadnezzar even more mad, and right away he ordered the furnace to be heated way hotter than it usually was, and commanded some of the strongest soldiers to take Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to throw them in the fire. The soldiers took the three men just as they were, straight to the furnace. The men were wearing all their clothes, including robes, their shirts and pants, and turbans on their heads, things that would catch fire very easily. And as the soldiers were pushing the men into the fire, the flames were so hot they killed the soldiers. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell into the hot, hot furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar jumped to his feet in amazement and looked at his advisors and asked, weren't there only three men thrown into the fire? They replied, oh yes, King. Well, look, I see four men walking around in the fire, untied and unhurt, and the fourth looks like some kind of angel. He came as close as he could to the furnace and shouted in the doorway, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. So the three men walked out of the furnace without any burns, no hairs on their head burned, all their clothes perfectly fine, and no smell of fire on them. At that moment, Nebuchadnezzar knew that they worshipped a real God, not some fake statue. God had sent an angel to protect them from harm, and even more importantly, he realized that they truly believed and had faith in God. They were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own. So from that day on, the king made an announcement that all people of all languages could not say anything bad about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's God, or they would be badly punished. Later, he gave these three men even better jobs than they had already for the province of Babylon. Wow, can you believe they were thrown into a fiery furnace, yet they didn't have burned clothes, burned hair. They didn't even smell like smoke. You know, sometimes when we sit out by a campfire to roast marshmallows, after that campfire, our clothes and our hair smell like smoke. Not for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Well, what can we learn from this story? Have you thought about that? How does it apply to us? Well, one thing I think of right away is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego showed great faith. And we can learn that they had made a plan and made a decision well before they ever met King Nebuchadnezzar, that they would be faithful to God and that they would follow him in everything. And we can do that too. We can decide in our mind that we will follow God, and that no matter what temptation may come, or no matter what even our friends might say or may try to get us to do or to follow along with, if we know we shouldn't be doing it, if we know we shouldn't watch that movie that has bad language, or we know that we shouldn't treat someone in an unkind way, even if, you know, we hear words like, hey, no one will ever know if we do it, or hey, this is not as bad as what so-and-so did. If we make a plan not to be a part of those kinds of things, then we are showing great faith. We're showing the faith like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Well, two things I want to say or challenge you with before we end. One is see if you can find in the book of Daniel what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's Jewish names were. And then also I want to challenge you and your family, with your family I should say, to read all of the book of Daniel. It's only 12 chapters long, and it is a great book on faith and courage. And let's just do that this week. And just have a great week. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Hebrews 11:1.
Let's sing words army. I may never munch in the imagery, wide in the gallery, shoot the artillery. I may never fly or dance. I am the world's army. Yes, sir. I am the world's army. Yes, sir. I am the world's army. Yes, sir. I may never munch in the infantry, wide in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly or enemy. I am the world's army. Jesus gives me, yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to and beyond, they all weep, but he is
God. After